What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another Waiver Wire edition episode of the Desai Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts, Amar and Tad, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Desai Guys, Mr. Tad Desai. And Tad, we didn't bring this up last week, but we went head-to-head in our fantasy league, and we waited until the end of this Monday Night Football game because Tad needed the quote-unquote hashtag Monday Night Miracle. Wasn't so much of a miracle. I think it was pretty evident that it was going to happen. Tad was a little bit more pessimistic.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was not nearly as optimistic as you were.
So Tad was down by about 40 points and, point change, whatever it was. He needed Dak and Zeke to sort of go off. Zeke scored 2 touchdowns. Dak, I think, threw for 2 touchdowns. They both easily crossed the 40-point mark. He ended up winning by, I think, 4 points or something like that. So he pulled off the win. And, yeah, like I said, I was a little bit more, I probably could have made some adjustments. I actually swapped out Najee Harris for Mike Davis. I thought that matchup was a little bit better. Najee Harris ended up having having a great performance on my bench. That ended up costing me a win there. So good job, buddy. Good job grabbing the win there.
I appreciate it. And yeah, this is the beauty of fantasy football is whenever you are cheering for the Cowboys, you just sold your soul at that point. It does not matter. But yeah, no, I totally lost faith late last night. Is American attest this. I was in a very grumpy mood because I lost in my other league with my college friends. And I totally thought, well, because you look at what Zeke's done this year, who was expecting Zeke to, do well at all going forward this season? And especially, this is great evidence of this. One of the guys in my college league paid, because again, I'm on the waiver wire free agency system, he paid $96 for Tony Pollard. Pollard? How you say it?
It's Pollard.
Damn it!
You keep messing that up.
I'm never going to get it right. But anyway, he paid almost $100, and you only get $200 for the season for a backup running back. That's why if he's going to be a backup, and by the way, shout out to one of our Twitter followers, asked us for trade advice. We both gave him great trade advice. Someone was offering
it was Austin Eckler for Christian McCaffrey, and he already had Chuba Hubbard on his bench.
Yep.
And so he was asking, should he have made the trade? We both advised him to hang on to Christian McCaffrey because he's not going on the IR. That news came out earlier today. Matt Rule said they want to keep him active, and just hopefully it's only a couple weeks sort of situation there. So, yeah. Hopefully he didn't make the trade because, yeah, I think that's a smarter move to hang on to him. So, Tad, let's sort of jump into our waiver wires here because I think, obviously, with the Monday Night Football game ending, we want to jump into Week 4. Everybody wants to jump onto the waiver wire to get some additions for their roster. So we did this last week. We kind of went through each position and gave a good suggestion. Both of us went with one. So let's start quarterback. Who do you like at quarterback this week heading into Week 4?
Well, first off, this is a guy we named last week, but Derek Carr. We both told you, trust Derek Carr. He's going to be throwing a lot. You saw it in overtime with the Dolphins, is that, look, he is going to be throwing it a lot. But we already picked him, so I'm not going to steal the answer. Let's go with another, kind of mid-tier team quarterback that has really been surprising people, Kirk Cousins. Weirdly, Amar, if you had to guess, where does Kirk Cousins rank among fantasy football quarterbacks right now at the end of this week?
Surprisingly, I think he's actually pretty high. I'd probably say top 5.
He barely cracks top 5. He is number 5. So you are absolutely correct, sir. He has scored 20-plus points in every game so far. He has a near 74% completion percentage. And get this, an 8-0 touchdown to interception ratio. That's right, people. He has not thrown a single interception this season so far. He's performed well against the Bengals, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks, which, look, I'm not saying those are top-tier defenses, but we saw what the Cardinals can do to a good offense like the Titans. Titans are finally starting to find their stride. That is still the offense that we were expecting them to be. A.J. Brown was out, and they still covered against my Colts, -5.5. So that Titans offense, nothing to sneeze at. Cardinals shut them down. The Bengals performed amazingly well against the Steelers. I know Roethlisberger's getting up there. That's still a very talented offense. And the Seahawks, I mean, look, like, the Seahawks are the Seahawks. Is there that much talent on that defense as there used to be? Absolutely not. But that is still not a defense that is a gimme, especially in fantasy. So the fact that Kirk Cousins has scored 20-plus on all those defenses Look, I think he's legit, and the Vikings defense also has not allowed less than 17 points all season. So even when Dalvin Cook comes back, because I can see people being like, oh, he just did well last week because Dalvin Cook was out and blah, blah, blah. Look, Alexander Madison looked amazing. It was like Dalvin Cook was barely out in the first place. So Kirk Cousins, will he keep this up? Probably doubtful. I doubt he's going to finish the season as a top 5 quarterback, but I can see him finishing as a top 10 quarterback. So if you can get him on waivers right now, if you're hurting for a quarterback, absolutely go for it.
So my option's actually more of a streaming option because I don't like his schedule for the next couple of weeks.
Also fair.
And that's Jacoby Brissett. He is owned in 1.6% of ESPN leagues and only 2% in Yahoo leagues. So the only reason that I like him streaming this week in week 4 is because he's playing his former team in the Indianapolis Colts. And
how dare you, sir?
And you have to think about the fact that they decided to go with Carson Wentz as opposed to giving Jacoby Brissett the starting job. They didn't give him the option. He decided to move on. He is now the backup in Miami. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa is hurt with the rib injury. He's going to miss a couple weeks, and Jacoby Brissett inserted as the starter. Now, yes, he didn't look that great against Las Vegas, but he was able to keep...
Bad. He didn't look
and that's
bad,
the thing. And that's the thing. He was able to keep the Dolphins in the game. Obviously, he converted on that 4th, and I think it was like 20, and he converted that pass to Mike Gesicki. Like and then when they needed the touchdown to go into overtime, he was able to scramble, dive himself into the end zone. That added to some points. I think he finished with something around the lines of 20 fantasy points. So now he's playing the Colts, and like I said, a bit of a revenge game. I think he's going to be a little bit more amped up. The Colts defense is a little shaky. That team is just, they're reeling off of 0-3 right now. They're hoping not to go 0-4. We'll see what happens, but you also have to look at the fact that Dolphins currently are 8th in the NFL in passing attempts, and they're only 24th in rushing attempts. So when it comes to fantasy football, volume equals potential. So the fact that they're going to be throwing a lot, that's another reason why you want to be adding Jacoby Brissett if you need to stream a quarterback here in week 4. Tad, let's move it into the running backs. Who do you like at the running back position?
Real quick, just to go off your Jacoby Brissett point, is this a little bit of a cheat here, but I'm going to give an extra pick for my tight end to pick up, and that's Mike Gesicki. I'm a huge hypocrite when I say that because I actually drafted Gesicki. I dropped him like 2 weeks ago. I am very much considering picking him back up, which hurts even more when you have a auction waiver wire, because now I actually have to spend money picking him back up. But exactly like what you said, the amount of volume, the amount of targets Gesicki is getting with Jacoby Brissett in at quarterback, he could be a valuable tight end pickup. So look out for that. But going back to your original question with the running back, I wanted to pick this guy last week, but I just couldn't quite do it because I wasn't sure if it was legit. I'm convinced it's legit now. That's Zack Moss, the running back in Buffalo. Look, I know Singletary and Moss always are kind of the, will they, won't they running back duo. Here's the thing, though. Zack Moss has proven that he is the goal line back for this offense. So you look at what he did last week with 2 short touchdowns. Like I said, he is the proven goal line back. But you look at what he did this week in week 3. He had 16 touches, 13 rushes, 3 catches this past weekend. The Bills' offense is going to be a high-scoring one. Josh Allen proved that. What do you have, 4 or 5 total touchdowns this past?
I think it's
game?
5. He had 4 passing and the 1 rushing. So, 5 total touchdowns last week against Washington.
This offense is not slowing down is the whole point. And, look, I don't care if it's goal line back or what. If there's a running back with this consistent of scoring opportunities and you need just a good running back on your bench, absolutely you should get Zack Moss. And you look at his availability numbers. He's available in 44% of leagues in ESPN, 46%, sorry, I had to do some math there. There's a reason I teach English. 46% of leagues in Yahoo. So for about half of you, he's still there. And honestly, at this point, definitely worth a flyer.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the big things, though, with Buffalo's running back specifically is that both Zack Moss and Devin Singletary have fumbling issues. So neither one of them is able.
Moss did fumble this past weekend.
Exactly. And Devin Singletary has fumble issues as well. So it's like neither one of them are able to sort of secure themselves as like, I need to be the lead guy. Well, you keep fumbling. And then it's like, well, I need to be the lead guy. Well, you keep fumbling as well. So, but yes, I do agree with you. Zack Moss has been converting on his opportunities to score touchdowns, which makes him a little bit more more valuable, but Devin Singletary still has value for all of you that do roster him on your fantasy league. So I'm going with one of my guys from the San Francisco 49ers, but this is a long-term play. This is Jeff Wilson Jr. of the San Francisco 49ers. He is only rostered in 6.1% of ESPN leagues and 90% of Yahoo leagues. So you have to look at the Niners running backs carries going from week 1 to week 2 into week 3. So you look at week 1, 22 carries for Niners running backs. Going to week 2, 23 carries for Niners running backs. Now, if you look at the Sunday night game, only 10 carries for Niners running backs. The only running back that got carries was Trey Sermon, and there's a reason that they probably did not go to him at the end of the game when they needed to bleed clock to prevent Aaron Rodgers from having 37 seconds to kick a field goal to win the game for him. Yes, I'm a little bitter. You can tell in my voice here.
I was just about to say, clearly you've settled your emotions about this.
But moving on.
Woosa, buddy. Woosa.
Moving on. Like I said, there's a reason that they weren't giving Trey Sermon more touches. I think they see something in him, or actually don't see something in him, that would lead to them not giving him the ball more. And Elijah Mitchell was obviously hurt. JaMychal Hasty had the concussion issues. They're signing Kerryon Johnson off the free agency or waiver wire. They brought in Jaquez Patrick, former XFL player. They have Trenton Cannon. They have all these random running backs, and I know Kyle Shanahan has a gift for making something out of nothing with these running backs, but it clearly wasn't working in week 2. It didn't work in week 3. I think he's going to be very, very happy when Jeff Wilson is finally healthy. One thing I should let you know, though, is that there is no timetable for his return. They have optimism that he should be back by around week 5 or week 6 when the Niners have their bye week. That would be the excellent time to sort of grab him. But before his roster percentage goes up and up, you want to jump on that right now. Add him to your IR spot if you have it available in your league, or if you're willing to waste a bench spot, I think he'd be a valuable addition to your bench spot. You could use him later down the season because Kyle Shanahan trusts him a lot, and I think once he's healthy, he is going to be inserted as the starter 100% there.
Don't do it. I totally disagree with you here. Don't do it. Because look, Elijah Mitchell, a guy I just used to pull off a trade, which I, in my opinion, won. I got DeAndre Hopkins specifically because the guy said, if you switch out Laviska Shenault I said it right that time. If you trade out Laviska Shenault for Elijah Mitchell, I will accept this trade. So, you know what? I got DeAndre Hopkins because of that. So, right now I have Thielen, Keenan Allen, and DeAndre Hopkins. All my roster in my other league, solely because I threw Elijah Mitchell on that trade. Why? Because Elijah Mitchell is going to start vulturing some touches for him when he's healthy. JaMychal Hasty, I know he was just placed on the IR. Chances are he's coming back. Raheem Mostert, people are forgetting about this. He's not out for the season. He is out for the season.
Yes, he is.
Okay, excuse me, he is. Okay, but you have Sermon, Hasty, and Mitchell, all potentially later on down the line stealing touches from this guy. So that's my whole thing, is you got to be careful with that. For now, I agree that's a great pickup, but do not expect this pickup to pay off 3-4 weeks down the line from here. So that's a short-term investment for me.
Well, like I said, I think it's more when he gets inserted into the roster, he's going to be just fine. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of running backs there.
Your 49ers running backs, I don't trust any of them. That's why as soon as the guy was like, look, give me Mitchell, I was like, take him. I was like,
that's fair.
Because Mitchell's going to give you a 12, 13-point game, and the next week give you 3 or 4 points. I was like, screw it. I don't want that on my roster. So that's why I jettisoned him off.
It's very possible. So,
I say that as DeAndre Hopkins put up 3.6 points this weekend.
Exactly.
And Sanders put up 7. I am so screwed.
So speaking of Sanders and DeAndre Hopkins, let's jump into receivers here. So Tad, who do you like as the wide receiver waiver wire option for week 4 and possibly in the future as well?
This is why I hate this podcast. I hope to God. I appreciate all of our listeners. Please spread the word, just not to my friends. My friends cannot listen to this until at least midnight tomorrow. I'm going after Hunter Renfrow this week. I love this free agent pickup. You look at this Raiders slot receiver. He's available in 11%, he's picked up in 11% of ESPN leagues. And funny enough, also 11% of Yahoo leagues. So the rare case where it's the same number across both leagues. Look, the entire talk surrounding the Raiders offense, not about their offensive line that they absolutely nuked, and we've talked that to death. is who will be the number one receiver? Will it be Henry Ruggs or will it be Bryan Edwards? The answer is neither one of them. It's Hunter Renfrow. He is Derek Carr's favorite target. You look at his stats over the past couple of weeks. He hasn't seen less than 6 targets all season. And much like I said with Kirk Cousins, the Raiders' defense has been underperforming. So they'll be passing quite a bit. When you are in a shootout against Jacoby Brissett, I'm worried about your defense. But if I'm a Derek Carr owner or any of the Raiders receivers, but particularly Renfro, because he's available in so many leagues, and like I said, because of his target share, he is a favorite target of Derek Carr. I'm loving the fact that the Raiders offense sucks. So I don't see any reason why Renfro's production should drop off. I know his touchdown opportunities are a little low, but if you're looking for a low-end flex guy or a key bench player, which look, we are getting close to midseason, which is very depressing to say. At this point, that's the best you're going to do on the waiver wire. So Hunter Renfrow, go for him if you need a good receiver off your bench.
Exactly. He's very valuable out of the slot, and you also have to look. I think he'll pair up really nicely with all the targets that Darren Waller gets. You got the deep shot with Henry Ruggs. Bryan Edwards is a really good addition, too. So, yeah, Raiders offense, surprisingly, a lot of good fantasy options there, especially in the passing attack. So, yeah, Hunter Renfrow, very solid addition. I like it a lot.
I'm calling the Raiders offense basically a poor man's Bills.
It's true.
All their running backs are pretty viable. Part of that trade I was talking about earlier is Josh Jacobs is heading on over to my team, which I don't feel great about, but I don't hate it. And look, Kenyon Drake still has a lot of value. Bryan Edwards, Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller, obviously. Like there's a lot to like in that Raiders defense, fantasy wise.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of the Bills, that actually brings up one of my options here, and that's Cole Beasley. He's a little bit more rostered in a lot of leagues, 67.7% ESPN leagues, 53% in Yahoo leagues, but still not a consensus like everybody has this guy on his roster. Like, I mean, he's still available in a good number of leagues. And you have to think of the fact that Beasley is currently 9th in the NFL in targets. Like, Josh Allen has shaken off the rust, and he's looking like the 2020 version of himself. Like, I mean, we already mentioned it earlier, 5 total touchdowns last week. I mean, he's looking to continue the trend heading from last year into this year, just slinging the ball all over the field. Now, you have to look at the fact that Emmanuel Sanders scored twice last game against Washington, but Beasley led the team in targets, receptions, and receiving yards in that game. Plus, he is currently leading the team in receiving yards, although I will say he is tied with Emmanuel Sanders in that lead, but he's leading the team in receptions as well. And so he has yet to find the end zone. I understand that, but his value is purely in PPR league. So, I mean, he's getting all of these targets. Josh Allen is looking his way to convert on any sort of first down needed. He will find the end zone, but the big thing is that it's not going to be consistent enough. So, yeah, if you're not playing in a PPR league, maybe don't go with Cole Beasley, but I think most leagues have become standard of PPR now, whether it's half or full. So Cole Beasley needs to be rostered, even at least on your bench, because depending on the streaming matchup, he could be very valuable for your roster, depending on your week-to-week matchup. Or if you're playing in a rotisserie league, competing against everybody, really, really good value. And like I said, very surprised that he's not rostered in more percentage of leagues than what I just listed out. So, yeah. Very interesting to see what's going to happen at the wide receiver position on the waiver wire. Let's jump into tight ends. I know it's not a very deep pool for waiver wire tight ends. And Tad, you actually went off the radar a little bit with this one, so I want to let's hear your waiver wire addition for a tight end.
I had to go for the hot take here. I had to do it. It was between him and some safer picks, but you know what? Screw it. Let's go for it. I'm saying you should pick up Tommy Tremble. And I know for a fact that 99.9% of you are going, who the hell is Tommy Tremble? He is a rookie out of Notre Dame tight end for the Carolina Panthers. Why am I saying you should pick him up? Well, as of today of recording, the Carolina Panthers just shipped off a guy I gave a shout out last week to, Dan Arnold. Their starting tight end is now a Jacksonville Jaguar because Urban Meyer's an idiot and shipped off C.J. Henderson, a former first-round pick. By the way, go look at the 2020 NFL draft and look at what happened to all those first-round corners. Wow. Just wow. That's all I'll say. But anyway, getting back to the point is, so C.J. Henderson is now a Panther. Great trade for them, especially because J.C. Horn now apparently out indefinitely, possibly for the season. So great trade for Carolina. But that means it's now between Tremble and Ian Thomas. And I any of our listeners without looking it up. And trust me, if you look it up, I will absolutely call BS on this, to tell me anything about Ian Thomas. Anything. Where he went to college, how long he's been with the Panthers, absolutely anything. The point is, Tommy Tremble is going to get most of the opportunities as the tight end 1 now. He is only rostered in 0.1% of the of leagues in ESPN. With Yahoo, he's not rostered at all. It's 0% across the board. So literally, all of you have the chance to jump on this value right now. And in case you're wondering, like, well, okay, so what? He's a tight end 1. That doesn't mean he's going to get targets. Matt Rule, the coach of the Panthers, said he is going to be this year's Jeremy Chin. And we brought him up last week. Jeremy Chin was a safety linebacker kind of hybrid, came out of the second round, was nearly the defensive rookie of the year for the Panthers that no one saw it coming. So Matt Rule believes in him. That offense with Sam Darnold, we also talked about this last week, looking real damn good. Look, I'm telling you, if you are really desperate for a tight end, Tommy Tremble could be the best bet you make this entire offseason.
And if I remember correctly, he scored on Thursday Night Football as well. I can't remember whether it was like a jet sweep touchdown or whether it was like a, quick screen pass or.
Yeah, it was one of those weird like shovel pass things where it was like a trick play. But yes, he did score. So he actually scored. He had 10.2 points if you're in half PPR leagues. 10.2 points this past week.
Yeah, so I mean the potential is there, and like I said, he is available. So go pick him up if you can. My guy is actually with the Minnesota Vikings.
That's originally my guy, by the way.
And that's Tyler Conklin.
Wi-Fi at work. I need to get Wi-Fi at work.
Please do.
I know.
Please do. Tyler Conklin of the Minnesota Vikings. So he's rostered in only 2.6% of ESPN leagues and 4% of Yahoo leagues. Now, the loss of Irv Smith in the preseason and the offseason led to the Vikings trading for Chris Herndon, the promising tight end for the New York Jets. Well, Chris Herndon has only 2 targets through 3 weeks of football action here. It's Tyler Conklin who has emerged as the tight end to roster from the Minnesota Vikings. His targets have increased week to week. He had 4 in week 1, 4 in week 2, and that increased all the way up to 8, doubled that in week 3 against the Seattle Seahawks. So, yes, he is not the focal point of this offense. When Dalvin Cook is healthy, it's Dalvin Cook. And obviously, the passing offense, he is not the focal point either. They got Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne is emerging as a pretty good third option as well. But you could be looking at worse options at the tight end position. Tyler Conklin will get some of those red zone targets. He'll be looked at to convert on some of those short yardage options, to convert on third down. So, yes, there are a lot of better options out there. But I think if you're dying need for a tight end because for some reason you just didn't have a good one, I think Tyler Conklin could be a really good addition for your fantasy roster heading into week 4 and going long term as well.
There's I did the no thing again. I've been so good about that recently. Damn it.
Really? You've done it 3 times already, so I've already ignored it by now.
Don't tell me that. Well,
I've
ignored it too. God damn it. What happened to keep my self-confidence up? Anyway. I agree with you. It's funny that you should bring up Osborne because he has been another breakout star in fantasy, right? Is number 17 on the Vikings, KJ Osborne. After a terrible rookie year, it doesn't even matter. I think he had 3 receptions. He's really been, breaking out as a star on that offense. But if you actually look at the target share between Osborne and Conklin, it's been pretty even.
It's very close. Yeah, exactly. It's very close.
It's going to be interesting, but I totally agree with you. I think it's that especially if you're starving for a tight end, that is well worth the risk at this point. I would just, hey, who do I trust more, the tight end or the receiver? And look, if I'm saying, who do I trust more, the number 1 tight end or the number 3 receiver behind Adam Thielen, who's been having a phenomenal year, and Justin Jefferson, who's been off to a bit of a slow start, but nothing bad.
He's starting to heat up now.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, I'm trusting the number 1 tight end there. So, yeah, if you need a tight end, go for Conklin, 100%.
Exactly. So, just like last time, Tad, we do want to cover the kicker and defense here, but don't need to spend a lot of time on it. So, Tad, who do you like as kickers and defense, either for streaming purposes or possibly long-term as well?
Look, defense, I'll go streaming here. 5% on ESPN, 4% on Yahoo. It's the Bengals defense. They scored 8 points against the Bears. I know what the Bears just did last weekend. I know it was only 8 points. Look, I get it. That was bad. But 8 points against the Bears, still pretty good. And then what really impressed me is they scored 11 points against the Steelers this past weekend. So they have a very talented secondary. Their defensive line's pretty good. Trey Hendrickson is looking like he is absolutely worth it. And who do they play next week? The Jacksonville Jaguars. Holy shit. You want to talk about inept offense? You look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They put up, 19 points against the Cardinals?
I can't even remember.
Yeah,
it was pretty
like
bad.
That. 7 of those came on a kick 6.
Right.
Like they're goddamn Alabama against Auburn. Like that offense is just terrible. Just Google Trevor Lawrence flicker. Like that Jacksonville Jaguars offense is just miserable. Urban Meyer is going to have another mysterious heart ailment. Bottom line is, I think that Bengals defense is absolutely going to demolish that Jacksonville offense. So if you're already in the area where you need to stream a defense, absolutely go Cincinnati if you can. For kicker, look, I said his name last week. I picked him up following my own advice. Daniel Carlson with the Las Vegas Raiders. He got me 13 points this past week. So if he's still there, pick him up. If he's not, don't worry, because you have Greg Joseph, the Vikings kicker. He's available in he's picked up in 2.9% of leagues in ESPN, 4% of Yahoo leagues. I already talked up the Vikings offense when talking about Kirk Cousins. Basically, if there's an offense that will need to keep up with the top competition, that's good news for the kicker, right? Because the more you have to score, the more your kicker is inevitably going to score. So that's great news for Greg Joseph. The lowest he's scored all season is 8 points. So Greg Joseph, he can hit those deep kicks. He will have a lot of volume. So go with the Vikings kicker if you need to switch out. Especially, I get that because I had to switch out last week because I have Ryan Suckup, a kicker where you're like, oh, he's on the Buccaneers. Like, of course. But like I said last week, he sucked this past week as well because all he does is kick extra points. So you got to find the kicker that has a healthy in between. I think Joseph is your guy.
Not bad, not bad. So my options are Nick Folk, the kicker for the New England Patriots. He's a top 5 scoring kicker. He's only rostered in 11.7 of ESPN leagues and only 21% of Yahoo leagues. He's on offense with a rookie quarterback. He's going through some growing pains. He's going to get some chances to score consistently. Definitely go pick him up if you have a need for kicker. And then my defense, the New Orleans Saints. Like, this is a reason that the New Orleans Saints have been winning games. They're playing really well. They are rostered in more leagues, 60.8% in ESPN leagues and 48% in Yahoo leagues. They are tied for first in the league with 7 turnovers forced, and they are 4th in the league with fewest points allowed. They have a great matchup coming this week with the New York Giants in week 4, and then also in week 5, they're playing the Washington football team. That's also a really good matchup. Then they have a bye week in week 6. So I think for 2 weeks straight, I think you can have a really good streaming option. If they're available off your waiver wire, go pick up the Saints defense. So that's all of our options for this week's waiver wire pool. Hopefully some of these will help you out as you head into week 4. A couple of these options are long-term as well. This was a really great episode. Tad, any final notes here you got?
I mean, just the fact that, look, guys, if you need trade advice, if you need waiver wire advice, if you just need lineup advice, feel free to hit us up. I was so psyched to see that someone actually asked us for trade advice. I was like, yes, we've made it. We're official now. And it was such a great feeling. And honestly, I think we gave him really good advice, and I want to keep giving out good advice to you guys. I'm 2-1 in both of my leagues. Thanks, Amar. So trust me, I know what I'm talking about here. And honestly, even if it's something that's, stupid or pointless, as, hey, Tad, you talked a lot about this trade you just made. Send us that trade. Let us grade the trade. If we get someone asking for that, sure, I'll send you a screenshot of what that trade was. So just interact with us on Twitter. We're willing to have fun. We are willing to, just talk to you guys about most stuff. I can't speak for Murr. I will go the same policy I have with my students at school. I'm 95% open with you guys. I will tell you most everything you want to know with some few exceptions. So if you want to hit us up, at Tad Desai 94, at Amar Desai 23, and at Desai Guys on Twitter.